Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hope Podcast. Today we have Lindsay Maher. Lindsay is a patriotic Iowan, a mom, a financial advisor, the legislative liaison, and one of the founding members for Iowa Liberty Network. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yes.
Well, would you mind just kind of introducing yourself especially from a policy perspective, and like what got you into like freedom in Iowa and like empowering especially families and people to just thrive? I feel like that's part of who you are.
Yeah, I've always had an interest in politics. I don't know, from a young age, my dad deterred me from going down that route.
He failed
in some way. He said, you can't trust politicians. I don't want a politician in the family. And so, but I always loved that aspect of how does, the government impacts so much of our lives in the way they craft policy and how that influences our lives. But it wasn't until I became a mom, and began researching, a lot of the choices that I needed to make as a parent that I then quickly figured out that, wow, there's a lot of liberty that has been stripped from the parental authority, from your medical decisions, from just about every aspect of our lives, where you get your food safety, all of those things. The government has evolved in all of it. And I was in a kind of more of a natural living group, I guess you could say, on Facebook, that, us moms would get together and ask questions. What do you do about this? What do you do about that? How do you make this? And from there, we saw what was going on in some of the more blue states around the nation, where even more power grabs and, taking away.
Yeah. What were some of the things? Is this like COVID, or is this even predating?
Pre that. Okay. California in 2017 got rid of religious exemptions in order to go to school. So they were saying that every parent, if you want to go to any of the schools in the state, you have to get the whole schedule.
The whole schedule of
vaccinations. And so my background, technically, went to University of Iowa. I graduated with a virology degree there. And when I was becoming a parent, I just had a friend say, "Lindsay, have you looked at the schedule?" And I hadn't. We never talked about that. Because we were focused on the actual research, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so when I looked at that, I was like, well, shoot, that's like way more than we got as kids.
Yeah, well, why don't you just give people a sketch of like what's the vaccine schedule? Like if I have kids and I'm sending them to school or not sending them to school, like what is my physician going to tell me I need to be doing?
Sure. Well, back in the 80s, it was like 3 vaccines. They were all mostly a combination, but the 11 doses is what we had. Okay. I guess I'm assuming you're about my age.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was born in 85. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, we're exactly the same age then. Okay. There you go. And then now, pre-COVID, it was
which would have
72.
been like polio,
and MMR, and DTaP, which is technically was DTP, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. Okay. So whooping cough, tetanus, which is lockjaw, and then diphtheria, which we haven't had a case in Iowa for decades. Okay. Multiple decades.
But, somebody's got to pay the big pharma. So,
but now pre-COVID, we had 72 doses.
72.
By the time you're 18 is what you're going to get.
So, like, this isn't, like, slowly accelerating. It's...
Yeah, it has gone, just shot off. And especially, there's 2 big inflection points, 1989 and 2006, were kind of the 2 big years where a lot were added to the schedule.
And, like, why?
Yeah, that's the question. The 1986 Act, then the Vaccine Injury Act passed, and from there on out, vaccines were no longer going to be held liable for anything they created. Now, they were supposed to supposedly follow certain safety standards, and the FDA was going to oversee them.
They crossed their
through
heart
their committees,
and hope to die.
And do quality studies, but...
As long as you make sure that we can't be punished, we'll definitely make sure that everything is super safe all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then you're giving bureaucrats who have absolutely no accountability to the voter the power to say, yeah, this is approved for the market.
Do you know why? I think we can all look back and people look at that vaccine law that says, like, you can't hold big pharma or any company liable for vaccines. And we look at that and we see it as a huge mistake. I mean, like, if you're a regular person, you see that. So, but like at the time, there's a reason they passed it, right? Yes. Like, what was the argument that were made to like, oh, this is why we need to do this?
Well, industry needed it because they were being sued billions of dollars in damages for the DTP vaccine. Okay. Very And what had big gone wrong injuries.
With the DTP vaccine?
Completely debilitating. I would say it's kind of like what we see now with really severe regressive autism, where like the children cannot function. They have to wear diapers the rest of their life. They're going to have a parent the rest of their life taking care of them. That was what we were seeing back then. Brain damage, death.
And it was tied
already
to this vaccine.
Yes.
And so their solution was rather, because we did this horrible thing and ruined all these people's lives, it's costing us so much money, and you should have compassion on us for that.
Yes. So they had already given a lot of people the thought that if we don't have vaccines, all these children are going to die of all these diseases.
Right. Okay.
And so they were like, if you don't give us liability immunity,
you're not going to have vaccines.
You're not going to have vaccines,
die.
Period.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that was the big push. And then from the parental side of things, because there was parents involved who are parents of the injured children, they were okay moving forward as long as they had protections in that bill for their children. So not having to go through the traditional court process because it was really timely, really expensive, and they weren't getting the payouts needed to actually take care of their children. So they thought,
so they bribed them, basically.
Going through the, not a court system, but a court system made within the federal government.
Yeah, you just won't have the people as a jury. We just definitely will make sure that you're taken care of with like a board of big pharma executives or.
Well, it's one single magistrate, one judge. It's called a special master who's, basically put in there by the government. And they had a big table of like injuries that, would be compensated. But over time, that table has shrunk. And it doesn't need congressional approval. The HHS secretary has the power to expand or contract that table of injuries and those payouts and affect those payouts. Fast forward to where we are now. Hindsight's always 2020.
Right, yeah.
The average time for a payout claim is just about the same as it was pre-law.
Man.
Yeah. So we haven't actually, and we got rid of all of the informed consent process that was in the original bill to help protect it.
We took the power away from the people.
Yep.
We invested into, I don't know what you call it, a bureaucracy or something.
Made government bigger.
Yes. The government has literally done nothing.
Yeah.
Like you said, the payout is exactly the same, and the payouts are probably less, right?
Yes, they're a lot less. They're not actual, being compensated for your injuries like in a medical malpractice lawsuit.
Are vaccines more effective since 1986?
Depends on the science, but we don't even have proper safety trials to show whether or not they're effective at all. So we don't actually have true inert placebo-controlled trials on the front end. FDA does not require that. Necessarily.
Why not?
Because a lot of the times what they do is just compare it to a previous vaccine, or they will use the ingredients minus the actual antigen itself. So if it's a virus or a bacteria, the protein that you're making the antibody to, they'll take that part out, but they'll leave the rest in. And that's what they'll call the control. We're not actually that worried. Like, we are worried about what those antigens do to the body, but what about the rest of the stuff? Like all the adjuvants and all the extra ingredients in there, like antibiotics and polysorbate 80 and the fetal cell lines that are grown in, and all of those things.
Yeah.
How genotoxic are those to our body?
Well, so okay, then what do you do? I mean, you have kids, so do you just like, we're not doing it. We're not letting anybody inject anything into our kids. Or do you or is there a way that people can research and find the right things to be doing? Or is it I just feel like I hear people talking about like taking their kids to the doctor, and it's like a lot of people don't really feel like their physician is on their side.
Right. Well, I think a lot of that is the informed consent process is broken down so much, and like doctors are literally, it's a big institution now. It's not independent, local mom and pop shop doctors. Yeah. You're dealing with a conglomerate. You're dealing with, the big guys who own all these clinics, and they're just a part of that clinic. So a lot of the times they aren't even setting their own policies. They are following a policy in order to be a doctor in that clinic.
Okay.
But what I always encourage parents, because whenever they reach out to me, I'm never going to tell you what to do with your own child.
Right.
What I tell you to do is, yes, you need to do your research, get informed consent first on your own to make those decisions. And so I usually just provide some websites. Physicians for Informed Consent is a good one. Stanford Health Freedom just wrote a book called Vitality. That's a really good one. Or The Vaccine Decision. There's a ton of books out there. And so it just helps you weigh the pros and cons. Like, what is the likelihood of you actually getting tetanus?
Yeah.
How many cases were there in Iowa in the last 50 years, right? Or what is the risks of getting tetanus? And then the same thing for the vaccine. What is the benefit? What is the risk? And are there alternatives? Are there ways to actually treat the disease now that we didn't have before? That we don't even have to actually fear any of it.
Right. Yeah. So people, I just feel like that's a theme across, I mean, for one thing, health, but also business, politics, everything is like a lot of the root of our issues is this basically informed choice thing.
Yes.
Like, there's a part of American society where we have to accept that if we don't do it, we can't blame the government for it. We can't blame the system for it. We can't. It is like there is literally no one in a better position to care for your kids than you are.
Absolutely.
And if you abdicate your responsibility, there's nobody who's going to protect them.
No, exactly. And I think the government's taken a lot of that parental authority away, whether it's in education, medical care, whether it's in making the decisions for where somebody's living, etc. And we've let them. We've abdicated some of those powers, just like you said. But what we really need to focus on is how do we make informed choices, informed decisions for ourselves for all of these different issues.
Yeah.
And how do we take that power back and make sure that power, that authority is protected? Because the government is only authorized to do certain things, right?
Right.
That we the people let them do.
Yep.
So we need to make sure we are protecting those boundaries.
Standing vigilant guard,
yes.
right? Yeah.
But that was what initially got me interested in this topic, was just, seeing what happened out in California and being like, well, my kids aren't even school age yet, so I don't even know if we're going to use a religious exemption, but what happens on the coast typically trickles in.
Yeah.
And it's just a huge abuse of power. And so I started paying attention to the Iowa legislature more.
Okay.
And getting involved with our moms that we knew in the area that were involved. And I think one of the first bills I even wrote like arguments and like emailed the subcommittee about was for raw milk. So,
okay. Yeah. Can we buy raw milk in Iowa now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
I thought I heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that bill passed a couple of years ago. So it's not going to be found at your grocery store. You have to go to the farmer. But what a better way, because that's the best way to do it.
It's amazing to me that like we're a farm state and like that it came to that. It's like, oh no, that farmer is committing a crime if he sells you the milk straight out of the cow.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what?
Yeah, there's so many regulations in the state that prevent you from getting access to locally grown food. It's ridiculous. And I think that's a big focus that needs to happen. I mean, number one, to boost the farm economy, but number two, just to know where your food comes from. That's a big trend right now, thankfully, and people are getting back to homesteading. And how can you make a run of it on a homestead or an acreage on your own?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Who disagrees with the idea that a community's better off when its food is produced by the members of the community?
Absolutely. I don't know anybody that disagrees with that other than the bureaucrats who unregulate.
Yeah, right. Everybody who wants it, the people who work for Tyson or I don't know who. But
yes, right. Yeah. The regulations, it's all about safety, food safety. So everything, like I swear, every argument we talk about in government comes down to them trying to protect you.
Yeah. But they're not.
No.
They're just lying.
Yes, correct. And so, but we weren't a nation started on the aspect of wanting to find someone to protect us. We were a nation that, in a state that started on wanting to pull out, do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Self-govern, take care of ourselves first, our families first, our community first. Yeah. That was how we started. And that's truly where we need to get back to.
I think you're hitting on something that is, so many of our decisions, and this actually is both right-wing and left-wing politics right now, are driven by a threat and fearfulness.
Yep.
And what you're describing, self-governing people who want to stand up and just do it our own way, in hopefully, in faithfulness to the Creator who endowed us with our unalienable rights.
Yes.
That requires courage.
Mm-hmm. Courage and actual action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Being willing to do something, not being complacent. Yes, it requires a lot of things. It requires the truth. Yeah. And I think that's where we've really strayed from, is getting to the truth of the matter. Yeah.
So you're like getting activated in this. You have your kids. Years ago, you're reading about California. And you mentioned that like one of the things you started doing was you probably didn't even think about it this way, but you started building your network. You started connecting with other moms, other families. And like, so how has that evolved over the years? And like, can you like how, I just feel like people who have friends who are like-minded, who support them, who challenge them and sharpen them are so much better off. So like how, you know, especially as it like played into COVID and when we all just got hit with the lockdowns and like if you thought medical freedom was an issue before, it was like times a million. And like how did that like how did that affect your life? As you know,
it was definitely like jumping off the deep end, right? Not knowing how to swim. I think that was everybody during COVID. But that's really, you know, iron sharpens iron, and that is really where I think it was really evident in our family's life where we needed to be, where we needed to invest our time, and what communities those were a part of. Because you can be in a lot of online communities, right? Yeah. Social media, but it's not real. Yeah. Unless you know those people in real life. Yeah. Right? People get mad at me because on my Facebook page, which I don't post a lot of stuff. I think people think I'm really like influential, but I don't actually post.
You are very influential.
But not like an influencer.
Not
right?
an influencer. Oh, no, I would never accuse you of that.
But I know. But I have like, if you go to my profile, it says, if I've never met you, I'm not accepting your friend request because I don't need a lot of people following me or like interacting with me that I don't know. Yeah. So I very rarely will post anything publicly for the world to see. And even the ones I do post privately, they're not, you know, they're really something that spoke to me. It's nothing, you know, driven because there's people are in the real world. Like we need more personal one-on-one engagement. We need interaction in our communities. And COVID really showed us who those people were. And so we switched churches. We had thankfully already switched, you know, the program we were using for our co-op for homeschooling. We joined a small group with like-minded couples for our marriage, you know, enrichment type of things. And just getting honed in on who those circles, you know, who your foxhole buddies are, right? Yeah. Who are those people who are going to back you up? I already knew a lot of people in the legislature and thankfully within Informed Choice Iowa, which is the organization we ultimately started to help protect medical rights and parental authority.
Yeah. Okay. Can you just take a side trip down Informed Choice Iowa? Like what? Because and did Brad Sherman help found that, or is that something else?
So there's a funny story there. So Informed Choice's medical clinic and Informed Choice Iowa are two separate things. Okay,
entities. So medical clinic is his deal. Okay,
yes. So Brad Sherman started that one. Okay, and unfortunately, the founders of our organization, I don't know if they just didn't we didn't look online to see, you know, what was there, what was available. We went with Informed Choice Iowa because there's a lot of other Informed Choice states out there. Informed Choice Washington, Informed Choice Maryland.
Well, and you guys have definitely made a name for yourselves. Like I know, anyway.
So it's an unfortunate, we have very close names, but we do have different missions. But we started post, you know, the SB 277 passing in California, which is that religious exemption bill. Okay. And the Vaxxed bust. And if anybody watched the documentary Vaxxed, they were touring the nation with a bus called the Vax Bus and having people come on and tell their stories. Okay. And they came to Des Moines, and so a bunch of us got together to talk to the Vaxxed Bus people and you know, tell our stories. And I don't have a vaccine injured child, but I had the research background, right? Because I worked you're a biologist. I worked on Ebola when I was at the University of Iowa. So the glycoprotein for Ebola, we don't actually have Ebola in the state. Thankfully.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Just clarification.
Unless Tony Fauci has some black ops lab here, probably run by the CIA or something.
I mean, who knows? We don't have a BSL-4 lab here, though, that I know of. Okay. But that was my background. So I talked about, you know, how I went down this journey and, you know, to motherhood and deciding that, wow, there's a lot more to this story than even we were told in graduate school or even we were told in undergraduate school.
Oh, so you weren't even... The education system kind of, would it be fair to say, set you up for failure? Or
well, they don't tell the whole story. They look at 30-year time frame of polio and tell you look at, you know, the great decline in cases with the vaccines. In reality, you need to scroll back a long ways to really see the picture of, you know, why were diseases so prevalent in the 1800s and early 1900s, and then what other factors played into the decline of cases, the decline of deaths. You know, there's not just one thing ever that is impacting your health.
Okay,
There's
so
multiple things.
for like polio, let me just see if I'm tracking with you. Basically,
Yeah.
polio, they can show a graph of like, look at this. Here's when the vaccine came out. Here's how many cases there were. The vaccine came out, and the cases dropped off a cliff.
Yes.
It must have been the vaccine.
Yes.
Correlation equals causation.
Right.
Which is a big fallacy, right, in research.
It is. Yes, absolutely.
Which is correlation equals causation means basically because this happened and this happened at the same time, this caused this, which is not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other things that happened for polio specifically, like when the vaccine came out, while society was also changing, and what are some other possible things that could have impacted it?
I mean, if we're looking at the full last 125
Yeah,
years, for
sure.
instance,
Let's just
water quality. I mean, we've stopped dumping our sewage out the door and into the river and drinking from the same river, right? So
so obviously that's going to have an impact on my health.
Yeah, sanitation is.
I'm going to have a better immune system.
Yeah, sanitation's a huge factor in our health and the increase in our longevity. Nutrition. We know a lot more about what to eat now. We have refrigerators that can store produce during the winter. So we're not going to get diseases that we may have in the early 1900s because we actually have nutrition that's able to, continue to make our immune system function in different parts of our body. During the polio outbreaks and epidemics, a big one that is, again, they say correlation, not causation, but we were spraying DDT very heavily across the United States, and especially to deal with flies and different pests.
This is a pesticide.
Yeah.
It killed mosquitoes too, right?
Yes.
That was a big reason.
Yeah.
Like it actually helped a lot in malaria areas, right?
Yes.
So like, but it had these other we
Right.
believe other side effects that affected,
Right.
possibly led to polio.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's different, there's a lot of different stories and research out there that I think people can go into. Now, a lot of people don't even know what polio is or where it comes from.
Yeah, I just know I think people end up in wheelchairs who get it or something.
Yeah, that's the paralytic polio.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
95% plus cases, you don't even know you have polio.
Oh, really?
Because the symptoms are just like the common cold.
Oh.
Yep. Digestive upset, runny nose, maybe a headache, maybe a fever. Right? What does that sound like? That's like every disease textbook.
Every disease,
right?
yeah. It's like just a cold, yeah.
Right. So if we didn't have actual diagnostic testing back then, we weren't PCR testing all these children.
Yeah.
How do you know that's what they actually had? Right?
Oh.
That's the question I have, especially now that we're all like, oh, we don't know because we haven't tested them. But if you're just going off symptomology, the symptoms could have changed. And actually, after the vaccines came out, they actually stopped diagnosing certain cases as polio.
Oh.
And they changed the diagnosis to something else. They came up with acute ADEM, acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. They came up with Guillain-Barré syndrome. So all these other paralytic conditions that still exist today, and they can be caused by various things, especially vaccines.
But it makes your vaccine look great if you just recategorize these things at the same time that it comes out, so that they.
It's kind of like,
that's so bad.
What did they do during COVID?
Yeah.
They'd reduce the PCR amplification cycles, and so they had less cases of COVID post-vaccination. That was what they were doing. They were changing the diagnostic criteria. And they're like, well, we just did that because we knew more things then. Well, then you can't
compare the samples aren't appropriate. You can't compare them. It's just totally irresponsible statistics. It's just like. And what it really is just goal seeking.
Yes.
Right? I mean, like, they, of course, had an argument for it every time, but, like, really what it was is they had a defined objective. The data needs to show this, and then they work backwards from that. So, like, what do we even do? Like, how do you, like, get good data in medical?
It's very
in
hard.
health?
Yeah. I mean, I read a study, and I'm just like, this is not a well-controlled study. This is, right? But how does the average person know?
I mean, the average person doesn't even know where to find a study to read. Like,
it's true. They just listen to the news.
Yeah.
See it on Facebook.
Yeah, turn on Fox News and like, oh no, I should be afraid of that. I better go get an injection. Like, yeah.
I know, hantavirus. Everybody's like, hantavirus. I'm like, that's been around a while.
Yeah. Relax.
Been in mouse poop for a while. Other varmints.
Yeah.
But yeah, polio is actually only contracted. It comes through feces.
Okay.
And so if you get contaminated polio poop in your mouth some way, that's how you're going to get polio. Okay, so that's number one. Like, first off, obviously, 95% of symptoms you're not even going to know. Like, they're very mild.
Wait a minute, whoever has that happen to them?
Right,
Somebody with a contaminated water supply.
Contaminated water
That's
supply, contaminated food. If you're not washing it, maybe. So there are certain places where
or
that is an
a
issue.
society that has livestock walking around on the roads all the time, horses that draw like, I mean, so like 1800s, it would make sense that something like that would be more easy to get, right?
Right. And
but this would never happen to anyone like that I know.
Right. Yeah. And what do we have? What modern medicine do we have now that could help overcome that? Right.
Probably a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've heard of any paralytic polio cases in the United States. The last ones I've heard of are paralytic enteroviruses, which are of the same family as polioviruses. And they cause sometimes paralysis. But again, you have to basically get that virus into your central nervous system.
Okay.
That's the way it actually causes paralysis.
Okay.
And so there has to be a way that your myelin sheath or your central nervous, your spinal column is opening that barrier to get
So actually, even if you get the feces contaminated stuff in your food, you eat it, 99% of the time, if you're a healthy person, it just goes through your intestinal tract, you poop it out, you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't even know. And the inactivated polio vaccine that we give now, because we have changed our vaccine since the 80s, doesn't actually stop transmission between people.
Oh.
You still shed the virus in your feces. So that's why, and it even says on the CDC website, if you go into the inactivated polio vaccine, you go to transmission, it does not stop transmission. But we're required to get this vaccine in order to send our children to school in order to stop transmission. So,
what?
Yes. These are some of the things that
don't
make sense.
And some states, you can have an exemption, but increasingly there are states that just say, we don't care what your reason is. If you're coming to our school, you're getting our injections. You're getting our vaccines.
Even New York, they're going after the Amish who don't use the school system. There's a big lawsuit in the court there about trying to get the Amish to vaccinate their children. So, and they don't even go to public school there. But
do you think it's just all about money?
I think it's all about control and power.
Okay.
That's truly what I think it's about. I mean, obviously, yes, there's money involved. I mean, the vaccine industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like $90 billion is what they're estimating for this next year.
Right.
Or within the next few years. So it is a large industry and a lot of power. But I think the biggest thing is centralized power, right? If they can get you to do this, what else can they get you to do?
Well, and that's just what's so evil about that and other things about what's going on right now is there was one authorized purpose given to the United States government when we founded our country, right? To secure the rights that come from the Creator that are unalienable. That's, in the words of the Declaration, the reason governments are instituted among men.
Right.
And what we see is the government not just failing to do its duty, but proactively acting against its responsibility. I mean, it's just rebellion against the nation that was founded in 1776 doesn't fully exist anymore because our government proactively opposes that government.
Right. Yes. And a lot of it is, the citizens themselves. We have allowed this to happen. So it's a government of the people.
I love that you bring it back to that. Yeah.
We have abdicated our authority. We have abdicated some of our rights in order to get more safety or in order to get more comfort. And so that is what has happened. And I think, there's always going to be a vacuum for power, right? And you get someone in there. Yes, we're not a monarchy. We built one in the federal government itself. That's the real monarchy out there. Sorry, libs. That's the truth, though. It is the monarchy. It is the bureaucratic agency. The entire federal government behemoth itself is the monarchy. And we've allowed it to get that big rather than confining it to what it was written in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of bad, court cases have led to that as well.
Yeah.
Allowing things to be misconstrued, right? The Commerce Clause, horribly misconstrued.
Just nonsense.
I mean that's where we've gotten to where we're at. But.
I mean, our judicial, I have personal firsthand experience in Washington, D.C., where the judges, they're just like, oh, the Constitution doesn't apply here. Yes. Oh, excuse me, I'm in the United States. The rights are coming from the Creator and they're unalienable. So if you're saying it doesn't apply, you are engaged in rebellion against the United States.
Yes.
But that's just, a microcosm of like the acuteness of a symptom that's been going on for many years. So just why don't you, I think a lot of people probably don't know what the Commerce Clause is and like what it means and or how it's been interpreted. Like it's so can you just quick 30,000 foot view, or we'll see if we can
we'll get there
sketch
together.
that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's part of the Constitution.
It is.
As a starting
it's part
point.
of the Constitution. And what the government thinks is that they get to regulate commerce between basically all industry in all states.
Right.
The biggest one was between the states initially. And now originally, I don't believe that is what it was focused on. Commerce was supposed to be each state could control what was not delegated to the federal government.
Yeah.
But then we misconstrued it to mean, if you're doing business across state lines, that's now our territory.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a federal line that you're
so
taking over
Missouri.
Missouri.
It starts out as like, imagine this.
Yeah.
You can't drive a semi-truck from Chicago to Cedar Rapids because Illinois and Iowa are in a fight over, Iowa's going to charge Illinois an import tax or something like that. Well, that's interstate commerce, and it is appropriate for the federal government to regulate that because we do need a cohesive economy between our states. But what has happened is basically the government has said anything, and actually I think I read a case about this. There was marijuana, I think, is an issue with the federal government, and interstate commerce is how they justify the federal ban on marijuana, right? And there's this guy, I think he was in Virginia, but I might have that wrong. But he's growing marijuana on his own property, and he's harvesting it himself, and he's, making it into a joint and smoking it and just, enjoying himself. And he said, well, hey, there's no federal law. Like the Constitution says that, any powers that aren't given to the federal government are reserved to the states. Like the feds, you got no right to charge me for this. Yeah. Well, so it goes all through the court system. And this guy, literally, it was all done on his own property, on his own farm. No interstate commerce at all.
Right.
And this is getting back to what you're saying about judges. The court ruled that because he could have sold it in another state, therefore the federal government had authority to regulate it.
Right. Which
is just total nonsense. I mean, it's just like goal seeking by a judge. Just the abandonment of the law, betrayal of duty. It's just...
Yeah. And we see that continuously in multiple different areas of the law, right? They're striking down lawsuits that try to confine, the government to the Constitution, and they're saying, no, this has a appeal because we're trying to keep everyone safe, right? That is the other really broad term of protecting the people and the defense. What is it called? The defense of the welfare.
Oh yeah, the general welfare clause. Yeah,
so that one gets misconstrued in safety.
In the Constitution, the federal government is given authority to regulate or pass laws for the general welfare of the republic. Well, the general welfare can mean anything you want it to mean if you interpret it the way judges do today, which is in complete disregard of the rest of the Constitution and in complete disregard of the context around which the Constitution was formed.
Any of James Madison's writings?
Yeah, any of that stuff. It's not hard to figure this stuff out.
No.
Judges are very well educated. Yeah. They just have, by and large, in my view, contempt for the law. There's a reason why in the Constitution the judicial branch was given the least amount of power. It's because for whatever reason in human history, these people are always grasping for power. Yeah.
Yes. And they're really, just supposed to make a ruling on that case, that individual situation, using the Constitution and the laws. But we see that with everything. Property rights, life, everything. Yeah. And I know you experienced that, but due process was one of the biggest pillars of the Constitution, leading back to even, the European governments that founded our nation, right? The Magna Carta, those documents, Parliament, all of those things. Yeah. So I think people want to forget history, or they want to think we don't need to talk about history, but those are important because they all lead up to how we ended up here. Yeah. And what do we need to do to maybe we've deviated. How do we correct our steps?
Yeah, how do we correct ourselves? I mean, so like, what do you guys do? Like, I don't know, as a family or as a homeschool co-op or as a church, or like, what are some like little practical things that people like? I don't know, like most people are just regular people. Like we're not all running for president or whatever. Like, how do we get started?
Yes, right. Well, I think self-governing, number one. So what can you do to take control 100% of, maybe not 100%. Obviously, we can only do our best to take control of our circumstances in life. Prayer is a big one.
Seriously,
relying on the Creator, right?
Yeah.
But what do we need from everything else around us? How can we limit the risks of needing something from the government or an employer or anything? And I think that's what true freedom is not having to rely on so many other entities and authorities to be able to live your life. And so how can we do that? We homeschool. We love it. We've done that for multiple reasons, mostly from the education side, but just also being able to be a family, having grow those relationships.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with sending children away for school or going to private school or whatnot. But for us, it was like, if your children are going to become the 5 people they hang around most, man, I hope those are my family members.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and just to having that, the really...
You had to make some sacrifices, right? As a family to make that happen.
Yes, absolutely. So we absolutely have to make sacrifices. And I think that's the thing we have to get back to, is understanding like the cause and effect of our decisions and being able to weigh those consequences. Being willing to sacrifice. Are you? A lot of people are going back to homesteading and growing a garden so they can be in control of their food rather than having to buy it at the store. And I think that's another great way. Being really involved in your church and community. I know a lot of people who are lonely or isolated, and it's like.
That's a real pandemic.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge issue, and I think we've gotten away
way more debilitating than COVID ever was, too. Like, the way it affects people. Like,
we definitely didn't help with that.
We exacerbated the problem.
Absolutely.
It was a very clear picture to me. Like when Jesus says all the world is under the power of Satan, I'm like, oh no, not only are these people not helping, they are proactively harming. Like they are hurting my country just for no reason.
Yeah. Yes. No, they're truly just doing it to hurt people.
Yeah.
But I think that's a huge issue. And part of me is just kind of like, well, what have we done the last 30 years? All we've done is seen church in being a part of and a member of a community decrease.
Yeah.
Right. We've gotten away from the small towns. We've gotten away from church. We've gotten away from community involvement, being active in your community, and just kind of outsourced it to the government. Right. So a lot of local politics is now to the state. Right.
Yeah. And state is to the feds.
Yes. And that,
if the feds get their way, we'll send that to the UN.
That's just run by one party at this point. So it's like, why would you want to do that? So it's a lot of it is just getting back to the simple pleasures of life, raising your family, doing purposeful work, being involved with a community of people that you enjoy, that you love, and that you want to help serve. And I think that's where we've deviated away from that somewhere. I don't know where in the last 30 years, or even before then. And it was all about, work hard so you can retire and go have fun and be a big success, right? I don't know, show back.
One of my jobs, I don't know, this has been years ago, but I was selling internet connections in Florida. And in Florida, actually Florida, Texas, Arizona, these are big snowbird communities, right? And so you get these really beautiful, amazing, they're basically trailer parks, but they're trailers and RVs where people from the north, mostly retired people, go down and live for the winter.
Sure.
And I'm just kind of a kid selling internet connection. I'm selling Wi-Fi to these things, and they're buying. I'm having some success, and it's cool and stuff. But you get to talking to some of the people who work there, and I just remember this guy he was like a maintenance guy or something for one of the RV resorts, and he's like, what you have to understand about these retired people is they're just 2-year-olds in 70-year-old bodies. Because they're just like, they followed this dream of getting to retirement, and then retirement was the lie that they bought was it's like, oh, just a never ending stream of self-indulgence. And these people, they're not happy. Like, I mean, they got STDs running through all the campgrounds and like all these things are like, whoa, I thought these were like my respectable grandparents. And like, but there's just, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of variation from, individuals and stuff, but like, they're not like the people who buy this work hard and retire lie, like they're not happy.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of purpose that comes from doing what you were created to do, right? Finding your gift and sharing it, or even just doing whatever, trade or talent you have to make a living for your family. Like there's still purpose in that.
Yes.
And when you just, do nothing and retire and now you're like, well, I don't even know what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go do this today. Maybe I'll go do that. I mean, it's nice probably, but to an extent,
it's
you
nice,
are
but
also
it's boring and it's not what God made a person to be.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I look at like, you probably have the same experience. I go around and talk to different political groups all over Iowa. And, a lot of people will lament that our political groups are normally populated by elderly people.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, I agree, we need young people to come up and take their responsibilities and participate in politics and all of that. But also, the people who should be leading society are the ones with the most life experience and like the most, like hopefully they've earned themselves to where if they've retired, they have, or at least they have the financial buffer to where they have free time to give. Like, we need your experience. We need you guys to like embrace your responsibility and not disconnect from society, but to engage with your lifetime of experience to rule with wisdom, with, just righteousness. Like, like we got to have that.
Right.
And
how to mentor the next generation, right?
Yeah.
Like how to give back. Yes, absolutely. I understand that entirely as well. And I do see that. I do know like a lot of the older generations are more active politically. And there's a time, it's a time commitment thing too, right? If you're going to a monthly meeting, you got to make sure you're like, that's why I'm not involved in my county party at all, because I don't have time for that. But it's true. Like there is things they could be doing. But I do think that we've really gotten away from having that purpose and like being okay just doing your purpose. Like not everybody has to be the president. Not everybody has to be a CEO, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody has to, do amazing, great, name-worthy things.
Yeah. Why is it not okay just to like earn a living and be happy? And
I'm pretty sure that's biblically what we were taught.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It wasn't succeed or else. No.
Succeed.
Success is not a virtue.
Yeah. What is it? It's there's nothing better for a man to do than to enjoy his labor and be, have satisfaction in what he does or something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we got to get to. So, okay, so family, involvement, community. I think that, honestly, I see a lot wrong around, Iowa with that. But on, the other side of that coin is like we are a lot better off than a lot of states.
Yes.
We have community here still. Like there's still a remembrance of like, oh yeah, we ought to be together.
Yeah, we still have our small town festivals and right, every corner has its own little thing going on, their own little niche. And we're a caucus state, so we're all not all politically active, but there's a good percentage of the population that is politically active.
Yeah, so that's something that you do a lot of, right? Is you're in tune with what goes on in Des Moines in the legislature and stuff. And so could you tell us about some of the like things you've been working on? And I guess the session just came to an end, but like what are you seeing in Des Moines? And like, are we on the right track? I look at maybe a zoom out of 10 or 15 years and I feel like, okay, I was actually trending in the right direction.
Right.
But not everything's right. And sometimes we take a step back but like, how have you seen that? Like,
yeah, I think each year is always a little different. And when we got started with Informed Choice Iowa 8 years ago, which is when I really started paying attention, I would say Iowa's drastically improved in that time frame for a number of issues. But like this last session, it's an election year. Governor Reynolds is retiring. I don't know if everybody knows that in Iowa, but we have a primary in a week, and there's 5 Republicans running, and then there's a Democrat running, and I think there's a couple independents that are going to jump in before the general. So the governor's seat race is a big deal.
Yeah.
We haven't really had that, opportunity for choice between other than two people for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to weigh in on, but we knew that going into it, like anytime you're in an election year, the session is just it's kind of bland. Like they don't want to do anything earth shattering unless it's like to make a big splash for the race.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there was some of us that were a little hesitant on that, like what to expect. We had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of political drama going on between the two chambers.
Yeah. The House and the Senate.
Yes. I mean, with a variety of issues, the governor vetoed a bill last summer that was really important to a lot of the grassroots pertaining to property rights and eminent domain use. So we didn't know what to expect, honestly. We had a lot of really great conversations on a lot of our medical liberty bills in the House. And so we were grateful for that because up until last year, we hadn't had any movement in the House, like ever.
Oh, really? So there's quite a breakthrough there.
Chairmanships of committees matter.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when you get chairmans that move to different committees and new chairmen can come in, those are opportunities.
Could you just take a minute to what kind of power does a chairman hold of a committee in the House?
Sure. Well, there's several committees in the House. I mean, you got your agriculture, right, education, health and human services. You got ways and means who deals with like the taxation of things. So there's a variety of committees, 12 to 13. But the speaker of the House and the majority leader of the Senate are the ones who assign committee members to committees. And they pick the chairs as well. Mm-hmm. But the committee chair is now tasked with running that committee, and a lot of bills get filed and sent to their committee. And they get to decide whether or not that bill receives a hearing called a subcommittee. And that's the first step in the bill making process, is you have to survive a subcommittee of 3 members. So you have to pass with at least 2-1 or 3-0.
And the chairman has to allow it to go to the subcommittee. Okay.
Yes. So the chairman has a lot of power in deciding whether or not a bill is even going to be heard.
So if we have like 95% of Iowa in favor of a bill, actually, if everybody in the state of Iowa is in favor of a bill, and the only person against it is the chairman of this committee, and the chairman says, no, we're not going to vote on that, that's the end of it.
And if their leader allows them to get
of course he could be replaced by the leader and stuff, but okay.
Well, and the leader could easily say, no, you need to run that bill, and they would do it, right? Because they were given that authority by the speaker or the majority leader.
Sure, yep.
But
it's interesting to think about it that way.
It is. Yeah, really, there's one or two people standing in the way of a lot of legislation that happens at the State House. Okay? Wow. So that is a big deal.
And that changed a lot.
It changed.
So the House has been transformed in recent years.
It really has.
From your perspective.
It had. I mean, I think when we started, there was like 52, 53 members of the party that were Republican.
Okay.
So it was
out of 100, right?
Out of 100.
Okay.
So it was a little bit more split. But the makeup of that changes dramatically, because I think they gained like 10 seats. There's 63 or 64 Republicans now to 36 Democrats. But who makes up those members had a huge swing. Yeah. And I think a lot of it was due to COVID, like where people stood on personal powers versus emergency powers.
Like Helena Hayes was on here, and we talked about how she was just so upset by LGBTQ and whatever, and she went and talked to her legislator in Des Moines, and the person was basically like, "Oh, I don't care."
Yeah.
Right. And so she's like, "Oh, I'm going to run."
Right.
And all of a sudden now she's a legislator.
Right. Yeah. I remember meeting Helena back then.
I love it.
Yeah. So that was what needed to happen. New people needed to come in that were like, no, we're not just going to listen to whatever industry or lobby here says we need to do, or leadership, and we're just going to.
Is that what kind of happens over time? Is like people who have been in Des Moines in the legislature for a long time, probably, I'm assuming, like these people are just getting bombarded all the time with people trying to get them to do something, right?
Yeah.
So especially like business interests or people with a lot of money behind them probably have the money to pay for somebody, right?
Oh,
Who's a lobbyist who works there all the time. So then it's really easy to just get in a rut where like you're just beholden to, even if you're not like, like we complain a lot about corruption and like, backroom deals and all that, but the default, like almost like gravity force would just pull you towards like, you just work with these people every day, so you're going to listen to them the most, right? Yeah. Like, so it's kind of like that's just what can happen.
Well, yeah, they're in the hallways, stalking you between all your meetings, all those lobbying groups.
Yeah,
waiting for you to come out, right? Or they have they have your phone number and you're texting and talking and emailing all the time. So yeah, they definitely play a big role in politics. They have a lot of influence, right? Whether it takes 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, they're going to see if they can get their priority across the finish line. And they've got meetings set up with the committee chairs throughout the year, right? They're going in with their priority sheet and saying, this is what we want done.
And why do they get meetings? Like, how do they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody can get a meeting.
Oh, anybody can. Oh, okay.
You can request.
Oh, you can
Whether or
request.
not you get added to the list
Okay.
or made room for is to be considered, to be determined, I guess
Okay.
you would say. But donors also play a huge role in that.
Okay.
I think what people think is like donors are like funneling their money to like certain candidates.
Mm-hmm.
No. In reality, the big donors in Iowa are contributing to both sides.
Oh.
Because they don't care who wins. They just want a relationship and to know that you're going to answer their phone call when they need something.
What?
And that is happening even in Iowa. That's not a federal issue only. That is an Iowa issue as well, okay? And so that's the one thing that kind of irritates me with donors, and especially since we have no donation limits at the state level. Like, you can donate $100,000 if you want to a candidate. But versus the federal level, you have those some limits.
Yeah.
There's workarounds with the super PACs and PACs, but
Yeah, right. I mean, it's
there's
like
nothing at the state level. And there's been proposed legislation by various representatives over the years to try to correct that, and there's been no desire to do that. They love the unlimited money coming in because then they can help get their candidates elected. But yeah, so the makeup of the House has changed dramatically. The makeup of the Senate has not. And now there's also new leadership in the Senate.
Which would make sense with the Senate because the Senate has longer terms, right? Are they?
They're 4 years.
4 years in Iowa. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not like the feds, but so 2 years for the House, 4 years for the Senate. So
Yep.
over the last 5-10 years, the House has really changed.
Yes, because they have elections every 2 years.
Yeah. So
Yes.
you've seen, as far as when you're talking about the House or just any of the stuff, you're probably speaking mostly through the lens of Informed Choice Iowa.
Yes.
Okay.
But a lot of the times, what I see is a lot of issues overlap
I
that
see the same
pertain
thing,
to
yeah.
liberty.
Yep. Yeah, it's about freedom.
It is. And so when you're talking, whether you're talking, school, education, homeschool, whatever,
Yeah.
versus medical freedom, versus raw milk, versus,
Yeah.
property rights, they almost all overlap with the same people.
I mean, big surprise, right? Like people there's a certain kind of person in Iowa that thinks, Iowans ought to be able to do pretty much what they want as long as they're not hurting other Iowans.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that's like, well, we need to be in control of these people.
Yes, right. Or like, they don't really know.
Yeah.
The industry knows.
Yeah,
what
they're
they
little
like.
pea brains. They can't comprehend like how to live life, so we need to just tell them how to live
Well,
life.
yeah, and if we do this, then this industry will get hurt, or
Yeah.
So there's always that personal rights versus industry or versus government. That's kind of in the balance there. But yeah, we had no bills move in the Senate this year.
None. Why not?
The new HHS chairperson did not want any of our bills to get a subcommittee. Didn't see the need.
I mean, and were you able to talk to this person, or like, do you know the rationale, or is it like
We actually don't.
Okay.
We tried scheduling a meeting with her several times, and she, kind of gave us the runaround. Go through my scheduler. I'll see you during session, and
easier to do that than to just say no. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have our theories. I don't want to, just speculate because that's not helpful.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, we would love to have a working relationship with them. And a lot of our HHS committee in and of itself is full of medical freedom fighters and liberty lovers.
So like a lot of things that you really felt like you ought to have been able to get through just...
At least to have a hearing. Yeah, they didn't even want to do it. So we had we had one bill move in the education committee with Lynn Evans as the chairman.
Okay.
And so that was thankfully it just got moved to that committee.
Yeah,
it was
I
not
like Lynn.
in
He seems like a
HHS,
good
but
guy.
yes. So yeah, there's definitely, from the 30,000 foot view, there was a lot of, we don't know what this session's going to look like.
Yeah.
And then we were pleasantly surprised with some things getting done that we really didn't know if they would.
Okay.
Like emergency powers reform did pass. They did tackle property protection, property taxes.
Emergency powers reform.
Yeah.
Tell us about so this comes out of COVID, right? And it's a reaction to basically the governor's authority to lock down the state or not lock down the state because of an emergency.
Right.
Right. So this Emergency Powers Act does what?
Okay, so this actually goes back to 9/11.
Oh, okay.
This law was put in place in 2006 in response to the terrorist attack on 9/11.
Okay.
And it was governor's emergency authority during a declared emergency.
Once again, like, you should be afraid, therefore
Yes.
give us more power.
Right.
Okay.
And it was very limited to certain circumstances like terrorism. Okay. That quickly changed after they got it into law. Word was changed. Now it's bioterrorism, emergencies, disasters, you name it. Okay.
Anything, yeah.
So that quickly changed. The public health disaster chapter was also passed during that time period. It was actually written by someone at the CDC and enacted as model legislation across the United States in almost every state. So our laws were passed 20 years ago. I think it was Republican legislature, but a Democrat governor, Vilsack, signed it.
Yeah.
And so these laws were passed then, and they literally have never been used until COVID. So that was where we finally got a
Almost
picture
like
of,
somebody
hey,
was
what
working
does this look like?
Yeah.
So the Attorney General at the time, Tom Miller, during COVID, wrote out what the governor emergency powers allowed for the governor to do.
Okay.
So she knew what she could and could not do. And so when that got published, a lot of us were like, whoa, like that is not okay. That is highly unconstitutional. It is infringing on a lot of individual
Which
rights.
this is the irony, or I don't know if it's irony or what, but like the thing is, the Attorney General of Iowa is writing out what is legal for the governor to do in brazen defiance of the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
But probably didn't think anything of it. I mean, he's probably just like, oh no, this is this is the law.
Because he wasn't reading the Constitution. He was reading the law that is subservient to the Constitution, which is this emergency powers thing.
Yes.
And so
So
there's
then
just so much wrong with that.
I know. So we hosted a protest on the steps of the legislature in June of 2020 to say, no, these powers need to change. This is wrong. I know Brad Sherman came and spoke because he was very upset that his church, they were trying to shut down churches.
I'm just so thankful for Brad. He's just like,
I mean, there's
uncompromisingly pro-liberty.
Yes, I know. Eddie Andrews was there too. He was running for State House at the time. So there's a lot of lot of people who came out during that time to say, no, this is not okay. Yeah. And so for the last 6 years, we've literally been asking the governor and the State House to run legislation. And they've had several bills introduced. Senator Sandy Salmon has introduced it, I think, 2 or 3 times. Many co-sponsors on both sides, the House and the Senate. Zach Deacon, I think, was the big one on the House side this year. And it's just taken a long time because they were afraid it would make the governor look bad because we wanted to go change these powers. When in reality, she did not use all of the powers. Okay, she did not force test anybody, force quarantine anybody. I mean,
the idea that you can force any of that stuff.
Exactly. Force vaccinate.
Egregious.
That is what is in the public health disaster chapter code.
Yeah.
It's just sickening. Now, there were some things, closing businesses, closing churches, trying to limit your household to 10 people, right, for gatherings like that. That is highly, and like anybody who followed that, you shouldn't have.
To be fair, the thing that kept Iowa open was not, I'm thankful for Kim and like what she did and overall, but like what I give greater credit to is the people of Iowa just looked at that and we like,
no. Yeah.
I was like, over my dead body. Like,
Exactly.
are you kidding me? Like, get out of here. Like, this is America. Like, the fact that she even thought that she had had a say in that.
Yeah.
Like, just.
I mean, I have to give a little grace because they're like freaking out because what are they listening to? They're listening to, everybody.
It was a
left
fear
freaking
campaign.
out, media, the CDC.
Or everybody's going to die.
I know. And I was just like.
It was a hard time for sure. You're right.
Like, it's a cold. Like, I mean, I don't know. The scientist person in me is just.
What is the scientist? Give us a scientist. I've never talked to a scientist about COVID. What was COVID?
Coronaviruses have existed for many years. We've known about them. Corona means crown in Latin, for anybody who doesn't know that. And they're a class of viruses, but they cause common cold-like symptoms. And we have seen, outbreaks in certain countries that have been bad, like SARS. That was the original outbreak. And
there's some strains that are more severe.
Yeah, a little more severe, more of a severe pandemic. I think we have bad influenza years.
Yep.
But yeah, I was tired of hearing about coronavirus in February of 2020. We hadn't even locked down yet. So I had no idea where we were going, but everyone was like freaking out coronavirus. And I was just like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So then the first thing I do is PubMed. I go to the literature, right? And just start searching and looking, and nothing was really adding up there.
So you're looking at like peer-reviewed studies and stuff, and you're saying, okay, well, what's going on here? Is it really something serious that I should be worried about?
And then like continuing to read those throughout, right? We're all like glued to the TV for the 6 weeks. We're all at home trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Is it 15 days or are we going to be locked down forever? Because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it was, and then just going back to, okay, should we be this scared about this? And for me, it was no, I really wasn't that worried about it. If it was a bad influenza flu-like pandemic, okay, then there are going to be populations that are susceptible. But not everybody. I mean, So, that was when I was just like, there was just something instinctually that I was just like, this is wrong. We should not be shutting down. And that's why we did the protest in June, because we're like, this is not okay. And we need to make sure other Iowans know that as well. Yeah. And I think a lot, like you said, I think a lot of Iowans did. I think the rural areas especially were kind of like, what is
what are you even
the difference between rural Iowa and Des Moines or Cedar Rapids and Iowa City during those times? Completely different experience.
Yeah.
It really was.
Like a regular town in Iowa was like, okay.
Yeah.
I
know.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it didn't change much for us other than my husband was home more, but.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Even he had to go back to work.
We had workplace and we let people work from home because, everybody wanted to. And it's like we had the ability to allow people to do that. But I went to work every day. I was I'm not locking myself in the house. That's just that's horrible.
Yep.
And the other thing is, you were mentioning earlier, I just thought this was such a joke, or just not a joke, but just awful. When the COVID lockdowns first happened in Iowa, I remember going to Thomas Park in Marion, and the first reaction of the city was to turn off public sanitation. They locked the bathrooms and turned off the clean drinking water.
And I'm can't come now.
In human history, the two most foundational breakthroughs in public health are clean drinking water and public sanitation. Yes. And I'm like, are you serious right now?
I know. We weren't arresting people surfing or anything like California, but that doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's just... what they were thinking is the park's closed and people aren't going to. Well, what was happening was everybody's kids were peeing in the woods.
Yeah, right. Hey, you got to go.
Yeah, right.
When you're potty training a 3-year-old.
Your 3-year-old is going to and we just as a people we didn't really put up with the idea of the lockdown. So but anyway,
so we've been asking for this for a long time. Governor candidate Sand thinks, we're all doing this because of him. In reality, we've had bills going on this for a long time to reform emergency powers. In my opinion, I think we should repeal the whole darn thing.
What we should just do is enforce the law, the Constitution, right? Just enforce the law, right to peaceable assembly. The Congress shall make no law infringing on the free exercise of religion. Too bad. If you say lock down churches, that's a felony.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a criminal violation of the law, and that's what the FBI should be for. They don't really. I don't think I've ever heard of an FBI or any Fed enforce the Constitution. They all take the oath, but I've never heard of them.
They love FISA too much.
Oh man, FISA.
Yeah. So we did get a bill passed this year. It's not the bill that was the most
but it's a step in the right direction.
But is a step in the right direction.
Okay.
So that was a win.
Well, good,
we were happy to see. There's still going to be some more work that needs to be involved because that public health disaster chapter hasn't changed at all.
Okay. What did change?
So they did pass the stronger protections for churches to remain open. The governor cannot shut down a church. Yeah. Ever.
The First Amendment is the law.
Yes.
It is an unalienable right. Thanks legislature for recognizing that.
Yes. I don't remember if they changed any of the time frame that the legislature can go in and like say, no, we need to, like, because the legislature could always have convened and shut the governor's emergency powers off and said, nope, we need to go back.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't do that.
Pretty, right.
But they always have that power. And so I don't remember if they changed the amount of time before they can come in and do that or not. I would have to go look. But then they had several other things like no ability to regulate what's going on in private residence. So you can't limit how many people are at your house.
Yeah.
No ability to shut down your business. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who are non-essential, right?
Yeah. Like you start talking about like giving the governor authority to say who's essential and non-essential.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I know.
Yeah.
And the one that we most followed was the governor cannot require a vaccination.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what we were like, okay, that's a step in the right direction. Still have the public health director that can do it with the governor's blessing. So it's like,
well, okay. I mean, the thing is, though, like you're out there fighting, you got to win.
Yes.
Like, right. Let's thank God for what He gives us, and like pick it up and fight another day.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were hoping for the property eminent domain bill to actually move somewhere. And
that was kind of disappointing.
It was disappointing, but I wasn't surprised.
What happened? Like, do you know like any of the story of like why it got stuck
there's just a big disagreement in what needs to happen. The Senate, I think, really wants to protect industry and like make sure there's a path forward for them to operate in Iowa. Which okay, understand. And then there's the side that's just like, well, that's fine, but don't force people on our property. So don't force eminent domain on us, because this again, the IUC had a really bad ruling on this, but this all goes back to the legislature is the one who regulates the IUC. The governor executes, right? Who's on it? Yeah, but it's still up to the legislature, and they have just been unwilling to act on the behalf of property owners because they see this industry as necessary.
This is the ethanol industry, right?
Right. In this case, it's a carbon sequestration pipeline.
Okay,
that's coming from ethanol
plants.
Yeah.
The carbon dioxide emissions from the ethanol plant, they want to capture it, just run it through a pipeline to North Dakota or something.
Yeah, who knows? They're probably changing that.
But. Yeah, whatever. Who knows? Okay.
Because other states have gotten in the way as well and said, no, we don't, we're not going to use eminent domain on this either. So they've had to deviate. And
I just remember talking, just the the CO2 pipeline thing is just like, I mean, for one thing, we're a farm state. We need our plants to grow. They need CO2.
They need CO2. It is a big process of photosynthesis.
Right. Number two, it doesn't affect, like, it is so, like, the atmosphere is so big, like, the parts per million, you're not helping. Yeah. Like, so, but we have this, subsidy, right? So Washington, D.C. passed a law that subsidizes it. So the company...
Yeah, the tax credits.
Yeah, they get tax credits, which the tax credits don't necessarily just go to the company. They can take a tax credit and sell it, right, on the open market. Yeah. Anybody who has income can use the tax credit to, like, reduce their tax burden.
Yeah.
So
a lot of these big tech companies are buying these credits.
Yeah.
They're not doing any better business. They're not actually making cleaner choices.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're just buying random currencies of credits online.
Right. But if you can regulate CO2, literally life emits CO2.
Yes.
So that's the foundational
we
thing.
We are all made of carbon.
Yeah.
Every single thing on life.
So that's, I think it gets back to what you were saying earlier is like, it's about power and control.
Yes.
And really regulating CO2, if you can regulate that, you can basically own life.
I mean, essentially, yes. I think a lot of this is, helping. I think a lot of the times the federal government regulates because they want to help certain industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But then for them, it is also about power and control. And I think that is this case. But I think they're changing the reasoning for it because now we have a different president, right? And so different people involved. And so you have one legislature that's like, oh, we got to reduce carbon because it's, we're going to raise the sea levels and it's going to raise the temperature in the atmosphere and, all the things from the environmental perspective. But then now it's a different president, different legislature. So now the thoughts is, we need to go
these business people.
Oil recovery or seeking hydrogen.
We'll find a super for sure reason that we'll definitely do good with this. Like, just give us the money. Yeah.
Yeah. When in reality, it all goes back to James Madison, who wrote a fantastic paper on property post, the Declaration and the Constitution, because property was essential, right? That was the main reason a lot of people came to America, was to own their own property.
Yes.
And property is not just something physical. It is our beliefs, it is our thoughts, it is our bodies, it
Yep.
is our lives.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of arguments that can be made surrounding the protection of property rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's foundational to liberty.
It is.
Like if you don't have autonomy over your property, you don't have, liberty.
You
just
own
don't.
nothing.
You own nothing.
Not even your own life.
Not even your own life.
Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of people, some people are getting tired of the discussion.
Yeah, so
who aren't in the fight, but then obviously
within the Republican
landowners
Party
are.
is really there's kind of almost a civil war.
There is.
Is basically, and the way that it played out, not this session but last session, where some of the guys got together and basically forced a vote on the CO2 pipeline through just knowing how the rules work and acting decisively in a moment when they knew they could do that. I think that offended a lot of people in the legislature. So now we have a lot of hurt feelings and
drama.
Drama.
And it spills over into other bills, right?
Well, of course. I mean, I just always encourage anybody listening to this in Iowa, you should go to the Capitol building while they're in session. It gives you a window into these people work. They're just regular people. We work together every day.
Yeah.
have you ever been at a job where somebody really pissed you off? You probably are going to be mad at that person for a while.
Yeah.
And if they really make you mad, you're probably going to be mad at them for a long time.
Yes.
Our legislators aren't any different.
Right.
And it's hard. And yes, they need to humble themselves and they need to forgive and they need to do that. But just understanding the reality of how things work with a legislature is really hard to get. It's amazing that we get anything done in these things.
Yeah. There were 1,300 bills filed last year. So,
oh my goodness.
Once you
how
track
do you even
them
vote
all,
on that many?
Yeah. Well, you don't. So they start through the process.
That's why we have the subcommittee.
Yes.
Because there has to be some kind of sanity.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Floor, and then they don't always make it through both chambers. So there's only a few, maybe a couple hundred bills that actually pass in a year. But even then, some of us think that's too many.
Do we need a couple hundred new laws? I don't know.
Some things have to be, for whatever reason, regulated every year. And I just think to myself, I don't know why that is the case, but talking about scrap metal and buried remains every year seems a little redundant. So
I think that goes back to part of what you were saying early on is a self-regulating people. We have the people shaping our laws are really affected by attorneys, right? Which is natural because attorneys are our law experts. But what attorneys tend to do is they believe that the solution is in the law and they lose sight of that the law can never make up for a population that can't act with wisdom and justice. So they regulate and regulate and regulate, thinking that they can narrow down every possible scenario,
right,
so that when something does come to court, either a judge or a jury or the court can come to the proper conclusion. But the problem is, reality is just a vicious and brutal place for legislation to go.
Right.
There's always just a unique situation is always calls for a unique solution.
Yeah.
And so I think what I wish would happen is our laws would be less restrictive, more broad, but in order for society to function is we have to have people who are reliable to act with wisdom and justice and righteousness,
right,
specifically on juries. And the reality is we often don't have that, so.
Yeah, well, that and just taking the step back and being like, hey, what is an actual solution? Versus just trying all these different things, right, with legislation and laws that, of course, are always going to have loopholes or gray areas, or because we can't define it perfectly, or then it's too narrow and it doesn't apply to every situation. So then they have to make it too broad, and then it doesn't apply to all the situations. Yeah. Yeah. So there is it's interesting. That's probably the one thing I've learned a lot over this last 8 years is just the process in general and what goes into making policy, because I hadn't really thought about it until I met with a lawyer and talked to him about definitions of words and how those matter in policy, and why you don't want to over define things sometimes, right, and why you do need to leave it more broad. And yeah, it can definitely be a confusing place. But all of our legislators are citizens. They're citizen legislators. This is not their full-time jobs.
Yep.
And I'm just going to go on the record and say I'm not for raising their pay. Because it should be something, it should be an act of service. It should not be your career. And I know they talk about like, well, that, it avoids a lot of the younger people from getting involved because not everybody has a career that you can use and do that. And I understand that argument and the fact that, yes, not every career is going to allow you to go and be in Des Moines for 4 months out of the year. So I don't know what to say about that other than, those businesses don't work at that business. I mean, if you really want to go into politics, but we need people who are there to serve, not be career politicians. Yeah. And I really think that if we increase that pay and that motivation that way, it's just going to increase that issue.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, because like the ones I see, some of these people in there working so hard, and the session goes long, and then they got to find their own place to live, and like it's just such a burden on a family. Yeah. And the people who really work hard and truly are servants, I'm like, well, yeah, I'd give you a raise. But then you get the people just milking the system. And
right.
Like,
they show up for 4 months, do whatever leadership tells them, go home. Yeah. There's definitely different people. And that's where the informed voter comes in, right? Yeah, needing to really educate the voters on how the quality of their legislator, and I think that's hard to do. Unless you're involved, like paying attention locally and going to some of their forums that they might have. Mine never had, but they haven't had them in over 10 years. But so that's the hard part.
What's the first thing a person can do? Like okay, a forum, which would be like, okay, my state senator or my state house person, maybe goes to a restaurant in my area and says, hey, I'm going to have an open house and, come ask me questions or whatever.
Give you an update on the legislature.
So that's possible. Yeah. I heard, I was at a Patriot meeting in Anamosa, Jones County, and Steve Bradley was there. He's their state house guy, Dr. Steve Bradley. He's a dentist, I think. And he just we were having a meeting and they were asking me to share the January 6th story. And I said my piece, but I hung around for the rest of it. And they were having this issue with, I think, the Mount Vernon School Board. And the Mount Vernon School Board was complaining about, I think a whole list of things. But the one I remember was that the education savings accounts were bankrupting them because, students were leaving the schools and it was causing them all these problems and stuff. Well, Dr. Bradley got up there and he basically just they had this whole dossier, it seemed like, of the things that were wrong, that the school board was claiming were wrong. And he just went down point by point. Yeah. And just said, nope, this is actually what's true in the law. This is actually, and I was like, wow, this guy really did a great service to his constituents by just he was informed, he was prepared, and he knew what was going on in his local area. And he really I just was impressed. He served his people. Yes. And so I think most of our legislators do that in Iowa.
I think they all want to do that.
A lot of them do, for sure. A lot of them do, yes. I mean, I love how accessible, for the most part, our government is in Iowa.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, anybody can go to the State House, I think every day. I think it's open just about every day but the holidays. Yeah. To get a tour, but then when they're in session even, you can come.
Yeah, you can put your name in.
Yeah, put your name in to pull out your legislator and talk to them. Yeah. Or email them,
and they respond. Most of these people will respond to your emails.
Yeah, especially if they know you're a constituent. So you always need to put where you're from. Yeah. And your signature so they know where you're from. Because otherwise you get the canned. The federal level you just get canned responses from their aides. But,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. But the state house level, no, it's usually. I have a lot of legislators who are asking for sometimes resources like studies or things that they can cite to go with the talking point maybe they were given, because they really want to do a good job of explaining the whys.
Yeah. We do have some of our legislators. I've had to been able to interview some of them and just have gotten to know some of them in the last few years. There are warriors for freedom, for liberty, for justice in Iowa, and when you start to see it's a hard fight. Yeah. And I'm really glad for what we have going on in Iowa, even though we have our dirty laundry and our warts and everything, but we got people who fight here.
Yes. And that's all happened because of primaries.
Yeah.
It really has. Elections and primaries are what have changed the makeup of those caucuses and gotten out people who weren't aligned on the aspects of liberty.
Let's talk primaries. Yes. We're in primary season right now.
1 week.
Yeah. So why don't can you talk about, like we mentioned Helena Hayes,
Yes,
and
Helena.
she was in a primary. Could you either maybe her story or some other ones that come to mind to you that really were positives from your view or from Informed Choice Iowa's view of this really gave us a big step forward in the cause of liberty for Iowa when we primaried, we changed Republican candidates in this district or whatever. Can you?
Yeah. Man, there's been a lot over the years, but Helena is definitely memorable. That was the year of school choice, and even the governor was on board with getting out some legislators that were not pro-school choice. And so the governor herself went and endorsed candidates to get rid of people.
That was one of my favorite things that Kim Reynolds ever did. I was like, wow, I can't believe she just went and torpedoed 7 sitting Republicans because they just were not for the freedom of their people.
Yes, yeah. And so whether that's a positive or negative, I could go both ways. I have arguments on both sides, but it made a difference. And we got, some new people in there. Mm-hmm. One thing we've done is with Informed Choice Iowa, we don't do endorsements, but we work with a national organization that will endorse.
Okay.
And so then they ask, who are the medical freedom fighters? They do a survey. They look at their social media. They see who's actually posting about it.
Right.
And they've done tremendous work just putting out a voter guide and then circulating that. And they have thousands of people that are part of their newsletter system from Iowa. Mm-hmm. And then we circulate it as well. And so I think that's had a tremendous impact of just informing people where they stand. If they don't get an endorsement, it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad and maybe they're weak on medical freedom, but they're not sponsoring bills. They're not actively engaging in, so it's good to know that. So they should go. So what I tell people is if your legislator's not on here, go ask them, go talk to them. Where do they actually stand?
Yeah.
Because we don't know. But there's other organizations that do that. New American puts out a freedom index. So they're very constitutionally based because they're John Birch Society. But they're looking at
Alex Newman. And
yeah. So they do it for the state legislators.
Okay.
And which is phenomenal because not a lot of people
fantastic.
Do that.
John Birch Society?
Yeah, the New American.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they put out a freedom index, and so it'll show where your legislators have stood on certain bills that were, for the benefit or not benefit of freedom.
I've heard the few people I've talked to around Iowa really like John Birch Society. And, I spoke with Alex Newman at the Reagan dinner that the Scott County Republicans put on. So I got to meet him, and he's just really interesting guy.
He is. I love listening to his content, so it's very educational. There's a lot of resources out there that can help us inform voters on, where their legislators stand. I think the property rights, was pretty evident with the voting, right? Votes are the best way to expose a legislator on where they stand on issues.
It's so important.
It is. Yeah. So we do report cards.
Good, yes.
So if you go to the Informed Choice Iowa website, we have scorecards on where people voted on medical freedom legislation.
Okay.
And there are Republicans who vote against, quality legislation that is for the benefit of liberty. Mm-hmm. So that's good to know. Democrats, unfortunately, for whatever reason, we have not been able to get a bipartisan consensus. So it is very Republican one-sided right now but there have been in other states.
That's
some crossing the line.
I appreciate that you care. I talk a lot of bad about, liberals and Democrats and stuff, but on here, but it's not so much I really wish that we had a patriotic pro-freedom Democrat party that could we could just have an honest disagreement with.
Right.
That would actually be better.
Yeah.
But
it would be nice.
It seems like they, I'm not hearing any voices coming out of that side that are pro-freedom, that are pro-God, pro-righteousness, it's just not there.
Yeah. I feel like each one has its they're either pro-industry or pro-government. And I'm like, who's pro-liberty? Who's pro-individual?
Who looks for the people?
Yeah. So that's why we have to find them and have them run for office.
Right.
But so there's a lot of other organizations. Jacob Hall's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, Iowa Standard, Jacob Hall. This is an official commercial endorsement for Jacob Hall at the Iowa Standard. We love him,
But he does interviews with a lot of them. So, you can't find a lot of media that's going to cover a state house race unless it's a big state house race in Des Moines.
But that's so stupid because that's what our local TV station's job is. Instead of regurgitating the national feed from ABC or CBS, I would love it if these people would do that. I wouldn't have to do this podcast.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'd be out of a job, but
yeah. Well, I think there's more power or more, maybe not power is the right word, but more credibility
Yeah.
to the Citizen podcast network than there
It's
is
true.
to the media these days.
It's like the old days in the Revolutionary War where there was no army. There was just the regular people had to get up and get it. Well, we're in an information war.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing a big trend towards that with the younger generations too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a primary next week. There's a lot. There is 24 primaries in the Iowa House.
Man, yeah.
So
on
both
sides? Wow,
yeah, so 24
so
total.
that's a quarter of the races.
A quarter of the Iowa House has primaries for those seats, whether it's in the Democrat primary or Republican. So if you're a Democrat listening, yes, you have a primary as well. There are options.
And for people out there who believe in term limits, this is your term limit.
Yes, it is.
If you are not willing to participate in your primary, then I don't want to hear you whining about term limits because you're not willing to take the most basic first step and duty as a citizen to get involved. So if you I'm not saying, term limits may be a great thing, but we got them and it's coming up next week. You need to get out and vote in your primary.
Amen. Amen.
And you need to be educated and do it with wisdom. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know. That's what I have to say. It's not your civic duty to vote. It's your civic duty to be an informed voter.
Yes.
Because you need to be informed. Don't just go vote for the name that you know.
Right.
It is a horrible way to pick people because just because you've heard them on the radio does not mean you know what they stand for.
That's that's so true. Anybody can put together good talking points. And guess what? Good talking points are better than bad talking points, right? All right. But why do you believe this person? What credible evidence is there that you can give me why I should believe this person?
Right.
And voting record's the best thing, but
Yes.
not everybody's got voting records. We have Donald Trump. He was a business guy. But you can look at somebody's history and you're never going to be perfect, but you can do some due diligence, talk to people who know them, see how they treat people that they're not trying to influence or manipulate, see how they treat regular people. Those sorts of things will tell you about a person's character. And so,
yeah, absolutely. And just, doing your research, just listen to their long form interviews. If they do any, if they show up to debates,
watch
those, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, can we talk governor race and just tell us how to think about the different maybe go candidate by candidate and just tell us pros, cons. You don't have to give an endorsement if you don't want to, but help people who are watching this to think about these candidates. Yeah. Right. And I mean, you can go, you want, do you want to start with Randy?
Sure.
You mentioned the debates.
Congressman Feenstra, yes. Well, it was a mistake when he was elected to Congress. I'll say that. That's pretty bold, but I'm sorry. He does not have the best record. You can look up just on the Conservative Review, their Liberty Index, his voting record. I don't think he's seen a budget that he hasn't wanted to vote for, regardless of who was president. So we have a debt issue in America. If anybody doesn't know that, $39 trillion and counting, and that impacts the younger generations tremendously. Cost of living tremendously impacted.
His oath is to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yes.
We have courts in Washington, D.C. practicing open rebellion against the Constitution.
Yes. Yeah, there's a number of things. I mean, he's donated to people that voted to impeach Trump. He's where he stood on 45 Q&Z tax credits. He put his foot down one time against leadership and demanded, rather than pass the budget extension, that they include the tax credits.
Oh, so he's pro CO2 pipeline, big time.
He can say whatever he wants. His actions speak louder than words. He wanted these tax credits to be in our hair to start with. He has not shown up for debates. He's basically just standing in front of your local town sign, talking about how he's going to take Iowa to newer heights. And I think he needs to retire talking points and actually start doing interviews.
Yeah. Start doing interviews. Get to work.
Yes.
Like honor your oath in Washington, D.C. before you want to come back and take over the top spot in Iowa. Come on.
Yes. So the other four gentlemen, I know Representative Eddie Andrews very well. I know Representative Brad Sherman. Worked with both of them in the State House. So they have, obviously, voting records to go off of, which is phenomenal.
And both have good voting records.
Absolutely. Yeah. They both have tremendous voting records. Both have business experience. They're both Christian, both pastors, as it turns out, and very much live and walk the life of a Christian that you want to see. I just can't say enough great things about either one of them. They both have stood up for the Constitution, liberty. I think they both, sponsored emergency powers reform or any type of liberty bill, campaign finance reform, all sorts of bills, pro-life bills. You name it. Yep. Defending the life of the unborn. So they have tremendous voting records, have a lot of respect for both of them. Then we have the new guys.
Yeah, right.
Adam Steen, I've actually known for a while.
Okay.
So I've known him in the business world. We were both kind of networking at the same time in Des Moines in the business community. And he lived in my community. So I didn't know him. I'd actually know he was a Republican until he announced, or until governor brought him in as the DAS. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what's DAS?
So the Department of Administrative Services.
Okay.
So anything that's running like basically HR, right? The government.
Yep.
So he's overseeing services. I will say he's got I love the fact that he's running on cutting costs because we need to talk about that a lot more in the State House is saving money.
Yep.
And
he's in a position to know that.
Yeah, he is. I can't say I agree with how he handled the whole Satan temple thing in the Capitol, and it led to some consequences.
The thing about that with me, with Adam, is like, I could even get on board with like, listen, I made a mistake and whatever, but like taking credit, like I just didn't think that was right. Like, I mean, listen, dude, like you're the gatekeeper and you let him in the gate. I mean, it's good you kicked him out. Thank you for that.
Yes.
We appreciate that. But anyway.
I think that's the thing is like, as long as you can have I have a lot of respect for all of these people for wanting to run in the first place and serve. But we're going to have disagreements.
Well, it's primary
We're
season.
all interesting people.
And we are adults in the Republican Party, and we can have disagreements. Yeah. And we're even among good candidates, it's okay to do a deep dive and a character analysis because we are not trying to find a good candidate. We're trying to find the best candidate.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And I've heard a lot of the debates with the four together because they've done several debates now. Even before debate season started, they did some forums last fall.
These guys are all. I mean, they're working hard.
They are.
I give them credit for that.
And so they have had some really good conversations. I feel like some clarity is needed with Adam on where he's going to run on things on some of the issues. And I think that's what concerns me is the clarity and the not knowing. And then also pandemic. Sorry, I always look through things with the lens of medical freedom. Where were you at?
Where was your voice for freedom? Yeah.
Yes. What was going on? And so I know where the other four were. I've checked. I guess that's
one of the best things about you is you check.
I check. I dive. But and so I don't know where he would stand on that, and he hasn't committed to wanting to reform emergency powers further or anything along those lines. So I mean, it might just be an education thing and just having those conversations, after everything is over with, and I'm definitely willing to do that. He did come to one of our events this year. Actually, I think two. He had a campaign staffer come to our conference in the fall, and then we had a constitutional attorney, Aaron Seary, come and speak at the Capitol and, for the legislators, and he came to that. So that was great. Loved having him there for that. So that's kind of where I stand with Adam. There's just some things that are unknown yet. There's some good things he's talking about as well.
I look at him and I'm like, I think this is a good man. I think he's a faithful man. I think he's been part of an administration that has actually done in the net good for Iowa.
Yeah.
But I look at the way he's going about his campaign, and I just if you're called by God to this and you're doing it faithfully as an act of love and service to your state, then you should be able to do it with righteousness. So the just taking credit for the satanic altar, it's like I don't even listen, it was a hard time and I think it was wrong, but just don't take credit for it.
Yeah.
And then what he did with Eddie and trying to bully him out of the race on a technicality, I'm like, dude, that's not helping build up Iowa. That's trying to use political muscle to get your way, which, I mean, it's a dog-eat-dog world, but if you are doing this as an act of faith and by the grace of God, you should be able to act with integrity and righteousness and the strength. At least that, I understand that's a big challenge and it's hard to do, but that's the candidate I want.
Right.
Is somebody who have that kind of integrity.
Right. And be able to stand on your ideas and how you're going to lead, right? I think that does speak a lot to how that might look.
Yeah.
And then the last one to the race was Zach Lane. So he's it's a name I heard of before he even announced, but
So where's he? Like, is he from Iowa?
He grew up in the Sioux City area, so rural Iowa, before leaving for college and whatnot, I think, and then moved back for a while, and then moved to Kansas for a while, and then moved back.
Yeah, because he worked for Coke, right, down in Wichita?
No, not that I know of.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
But he married a woman who used to be a Coke member of the family.
Okay, maybe that's why I thought that. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so he started a school down in Kansas.
Okay.
On Wichita State University campus.
Oh, okay.
And that's how he met his current wife, Annie.
Okay.
Because she was also one of the co-founders of the school, and her husband was Chase Koch at the time. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he returned to Iowa and is outside Belle Plaine, so not far from here.
Okay.
They're doing a regenerative farm and raising their kids, and but it's a interesting family life, right? When
right. They got yours, mine, and ours going on, right?
Yes, exactly. So, but his policies, I think, have really started to resonate with people, which is interesting.
I mean, he
doesn't have a voting record either, so like a voting, he's never run for legislature.
But like, let's just talk for a minute about his policies, right? Like, are great. As far as I can tell. Like, I mean, what he says is great. The whole problem that I have is what you said is like, well, okay, there's no voting record.
Yeah.
So what other qualifiers can we draw upon to, like, right? I mean, I wish the guy would like come in and serve in the House or the Senate or try to get serve Iowa to build some credibility, to prove that what he's saying is what he, Jesus says, if you want to lead, you should serve first. Well, I would love to see this guy get in here and serve Iowa, prove that he's a servant, and then the things you're saying are awesome. That, I would love for that. I mean, so anyway, I just stole the whole analysis, but
that's okay.
We want your opinion.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, all opinions are welcome, but I agree. I most of the time that is where I'm at as well. Like, work your way up. We need to know where you're coming from before you can lead the state. And I think a lot of times that is what happens with our politicians. Our congressional members all come from our Iowa State House, for good or bad or worse purposes. That's where they've come from.
Yep.
And I don't know, I don't really have a lot of praise to say about any of them. So I don't know if that's good or right or whatnot.
Fair point. Yep.
At the same time, I can appreciate a lot of what he's brought to the light and the conversation for issues that I think some people didn't think were even issues.
Yeah.
I think...
Like what's in it, like cancer?
Cancer. Cancer is a really challenging one. If you've ever done cancer studies or studied cancer in general, there's multiple factors that are involved when you're getting cancer, from my perspective. But yes, cancer rates are definitely an issue. Water quality, I think that's been an issue for a long time that people don't talk about. And because we're an ag state, because they think, we're automatically going to blame the farmer. Okay. Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think if we step back and take that holistic point of view and say, look, we all drink the water. We kind of all need to have good water. Yeah. Like, what can we do about this together as a community? Right. And not necessarily banning things or over-regulating everything, but just what can we do? Let's take a look at it rather than just trying to run from it. And so I appreciate that part of the conversation.
Yeah, he's just like facing an issue head on that's kind of like the third rail in Iowa.
It is.
It's like, okay.
And the Democrats are running with it. Like, they were completely navigating that lane for a long time, until he really started speaking about it. Yeah. And now they see him as a threat because of that. But I mean, it's interesting. So I think what happens during the primary process is these candidates can listen to each other and listen to the people as they're going around the state to campaign and hone in on what actually needs to be tackled and what are some solutions. People offer solutions all the time to these candidates. They walk up and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so I think that's the best part about having multiple people running and having a choice. Yeah. Because you are hopefully creating the best candidate in the process. Good point.
Yeah. It's like, this is part of how we get better.
Yes.
Which means some of these guys, I had Doug Campbell on here the other day, and he just had such a rough because he did the thing where he primaried the existing Republican who was sitting in there, and he really made some people mad at him. Yep. And it's just like, we're adults here, we got to be able to do this. Yeah. And you just I I'm not mad at you for being offended because I could see how that would hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But like, we're a state and we got a state to run. And guess what? You answer to the people.
Yes.
So
you don't answer to the party.
Yeah.
And that's what they feel like, that you have to do whatever the party wants. Like, that's what the party believes too. Like both parties, right? But it's the people who do the voting, the people who want to elect the candidates that they want to elect. So honestly, I think there should be primaries every time.
Yeah.
I wish there were more people willing to run.
Everybody had to deal with the primary.
Everybody had to deal with the primary every time. So they're always, defending their record, talking about new ideas.
Yep.
Because it's a fine tuning process, and we would have a lot better. I feel like we would have a lot better government if we had those people each time having to defend their record and had people challenging them.
Because not only do we not have the primaries, we also have, to a certain extent at least, this like, you better not primary him, because if you do, you're wrecking an existing Republican that's worked so hard, and like, never mind the fact that this guy might have a terrible voting record or whatever. Like, I mean, it's like, this is about the party. Yeah. And it's like, well,
or they're going to be the next leader. So you can't primary them because they're going to be our next majority leader or our next governor. Or
unless the people say no, and then too bad.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love the primaries. I think it's the best place to weigh in as a voter, especially if you're informed. There's primaries for the state auditor, right? There's primaries for a lot of different positions. Yeah. Board of Supervisors of races are up right now. So there's a variety of primaries.
I want to talk at least Senate, because Jim Carlin's a really good friend of mine.
Yes.
And so I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on him and Ashley Hinson.
Well, I do know him very well.
Yeah, that's right. You guys were together.
So I might be biased.
Yeah. No, that's totally fine. Biased in a good way. But did you have anything else to add that you wanted to get to for the governor race before?
No.
That's how people need to be thinking about these candidates.
Yeah. Well, evaluating them, like you said, on what qualifiers are we evaluating them on? Obviously ideas, voting record's a big one. Mm-hmm. And then, just how they carry themselves, hold themselves, ideas, what are they going to be able to be actionable on? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's very good. So, then let's do Senate.
Yes.
Senate. Ashley Hinson versus Jim Carlin.
Yes. So Jim, I've known, he's been one of our allies in the State House before he retired, and big heart for people. I mean, huge heart for people.
That's something that doesn't always come through, but having known him. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a guy that, when it was totally anathema for anybody in politics to touch anybody with January 6th, he reached out to my mom and got my contact info so he could contact me when I was in prison.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to call me. Mm-hmm. He wanted to encourage me. He wanted to pray for me.
Yes. And he's had that ministry for other jails.
Yeah.
In his previous history. Yeah. So I've known Jim for a long time. He has a phenomenal record with defending liberty, upholding rights. I mean, he was the guy who put his foot down and said no to a budget until they brought the heartbeat bill to the floor. Yep. So you need those people with that kind of political savvy who are willing to say no, not until you do what the people should get a vote on. And that's exactly what the property eminent domain people did as well, which I applaud. Mm-hmm. And I think we need, if leadership continues in these ways where they're not willing to work with all the legislators, the voices of the people, then that you might see more of that. And that's okay. Yep. He's now running for U.S. Senate. It's his second time running, and I feel like he's gotten a lot of traction with his name being on the ballot again. Mm-hmm. He's talking about a lot of big issues that need to be tackled. As an attorney, he knows a lot about fraud and corruption, so that is really exciting.
Yep.
And then from the healthcare perspective, the exorbitant costs of healthcare. I mean, yes, it is a huge issue because it's basically one industry. It's basically a government industry. Yes, we don't have universal healthcare, but try and find anywhere that healthcare is not regulated by the government.
Yeah, so. The government takes the cost and the control, and the profit gets going and funneled to their preferred.
Most of the quality of care, the standard of care, what they can actually do, all decided by the government. Yeah. So I think he's got a great. I would absolutely put my name behind him for the U.S. Senate. I think he would be a phenomenal ally to have in that chamber, which they definitely need a shakeup of not.
Well, it's very timely right now because we just had basically a little toddler temper tantrum thrown by the Senate Republicans in Washington because of, I don't know what, the weaponization fund or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're not passing the SAVE Act. Mm-hmm. And like, you want to talk about a guy running for office who knows how to get things through that are the will of the people, a legislative body that is not always loyal to the people.
Right.
He's perfect.
Yes.
Like, it's exactly what he's been doing in Iowa.
Yes,
like, yeah.
Exactly. And I don't think he would vote to, refund all these NGOs that are doing absolutely nothing for the American people and that are just basically private slush funds for, industry or government officials. Yeah. So I think he knows enough about the fact of what's going on there to know that he needs to avoid being a part of it and what he can do to help undo some of that, like Doge. Like, hey, how great would that have been if we actually did Doge and cut spending? But none of our current congressional members have done that. And I was watching the Farm Bill to see if they all voted for immunity from liability. And thankfully, they all got the memo that Iowans were watching. And so they did not. They actually voted with the amendment to strip that out, so Bayer can't be immune from liability.
I just can't believe we were even talking about that.
Yes. Well, one idea that works, apparently.
Yeah, right.
They want to do it again.
Yeah,
so,
why not?
It works for industry. But, yeah, so
Terrible.
I haven't been overly impressed with Congresswoman Hinson's record. I didn't really have much of a chance to work with her when she was in the State House.
Yeah.
So, but just based on her voting record, that's enough for me to say no.
Yeah, I just don't think she's that. I mean, she was totally disloyal to me. And I mean, I was her constituent when I was going to prison for January 6th. And she just, I mean, her office would say things, we'll help you, or we'll write a letter or whatever. Yeah. She told my brother ran into her on a plane, and she's like, oh yeah, well, yeah, that's happening. That's terrible. And we're definitely going to do something. She just didn't. She's just, I get the feeling that, she reads the teleprompter that's put in front of her and,
right. They go on Fox News and do what they're told. Yeah. Right.
So, okay. We agree on that one.
Yes.
Nobody needs to be told how to think. We just told you what to do. So, okay. Any other races that like primary races like that we should,
well, there's a lot of primaries, like I mentioned. So.
I mean, maybe just do any of them that come to mind that you want to just rapid fire, like just give us
the Iowa Senate. I mean, there's a lot of people that are on the block for the eminent domain issue.
Okay.
So, close to my district, Senate district, I think 23. So rural Polk County.
Yep.
Jack Whitver is retiring, and so that seat is open. And so Mike Busolo and Wes Enos are running against each other for that.
Okay.
Mike Busolo obviously was the leader of the bill that gutted the eminent domain from the actual bill, and then led the charge on that bill last year that ended up getting vetoed, and he voted against it as well. That would have had added more protections for property owners. It didn't do anything about eminent domain.
Okay. And his opponent is Wes
Enos.
Okay.
And he's a familiar face in Polk County. A lot of people know him. Very involved.
I think I've met
in
him actually. Yeah, maybe at my book launch party in West Des Moines or something.
Oh, that could be.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So he's running. He is very pro property rights and pro property owners. So there's a little bit of a, lots of dirty things come out during COVID or during primaries. And so lots of, we try to, the negative ads are running and negative mailers. And I mean, I think people just get annoyed with it, but that is happening. I know some other people, Lynn Evans, I mean, he's the chairman of education. He's being primaried.
Yeah.
So I love Lynn. I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, Lynn's, I think he's such a good guy. Yeah.
And I think the people of his district know that too. So I think they'll reelect him. Stacey Besch, she's in a primary, and she's in a primary with Dave Rowley. And I don't know Dave all that well, other than just watching his voting record. And he's stood with property right owners on some things. And so, from the looks of it, it could be a toss up. But Stacey does a lot of public speaking for trafficking. And
she's just a warrior for. I mean, she's so strong, but just a warrior for people.
Yes.
And I love
in the
that
Constitution.
About her.
She was huge during the COVID pandemic, speaking out for truth and personal liberty and personal rights. And so that's actually when I met her. So yeah, it'll be a good race, but people should definitely check her out.
But that's a race where you're kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, we're just getting better here. Like, Dave, you got to get better. Or, if the voters want Stacy, well, and I just hope that, in Des Moines, like we don't have like major fallout if voters, it's up to the voters. Come on, like
it is up to the voters. And especially if you're not campaigning negatively about someone.
Yeah.
Like if you're just like, hey, this is me, this is what I'm going to bring to the table.
Right.
Then it's truly up to the voters. It's not, oh, this person did this and that. And
it does.
Don't like that type of advertising. Marketing, I guess you could say, for campaigns. But yeah, there's a lot of primaries. Indianola, so Senator Garrett just retired.
Mandy, right?
Yeah, so there's three-way. There's a three-way primary down there. So a former state legislator, John Thorup, there's Mandy Shivers, and I think you've had her on, right?
Yeah, I love Mandy. Yep.
Can't even tell you the other lady's name. Starts with a Z, it's really long.
Okay.
But she's a corporate Republican. That's basically what I'll boil it down to. She's backed by Terry Branstad and kind of the corporate Republican machine. So if that's your idea of politics, is backing the corporate Republican Party machine, then maybe she's your gal. But Mandy and John have at least been more accessible to the voters and had events and debates together. And
well, Mandy's been kind of in the trenches at the Capitol. You've probably seen her a few times over the years, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Partner together. And she also has a big heart for humanity and just doing what is right for people.
And a homesteader, really rooted person in her community. I always appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. So there's some definite opportunities out there to, get some new people into the Senate. There's obviously primaries in the House.
Bob Eshelman's been on here. He's run for Senate.
Yes. I know that seat's open again. There's a Representative Barb McCullough, Niff McCullough, who wants to move over to the Senate, and he's in that primary with her. So both are, members of their community, and which is good because Senator Rosenblum wasn't actually living in the district, so
I can't believe how many times I hear that happen. Like,
I know, just represent your people.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Don't keep moving.
Come on.
Or if you do want to represent the people that your new district is in, fine, move. Senator Salmon
like
did
why
that.
do you gotta?
Yeah, Senator Salmon did that. She moved. So there's a lot of primaries, and people they need to dive in, do a little research.
Yeah.
If you can't go to the events, fine, but there's plenty. I mean, we live in the information age.
Yeah.
You can find just about anything on the internet for interviews, YouTubes, podcasts.
The important thing is to turn your brain on to go do the research rather than just to turn your phone on and to just be fed the information.
Yeah, or listening to the media or reading the mailers that come in, to your recycling pile.
Right.
So those are just good marketing slogans. They are not actual policies.
What about auditor?
Yeah. I haven't actually had the pleasure of meeting the auditor.
I
know. Actually, I do know Senator, now Lieutenant Governor Cournoyer, a little bit just from working in the State House.
Okay.
Was at the bill signings with her last week. So, so I know kind of her trajectory and history, and I've seen a lot of positive things about Abigail Moss from Iowa County.
Yep.
So I love what I'm hearing from her in regards to spending and actually monitoring, spending.
Yeah.
Because there's been a few audits that have fallen through the cracks in the last 4 years that people, for some reason, forget about when they're talking about the current auditor.
You know what might be interesting? What does an auditor do?
Yeah,
for the state of Iowa.
Yeah, so they actually monitor what spending is happening. Like when you're given money,
for your city,
from the
for
governor,
your county, for your everything.
Right, they're auditing the government regulated industries. Right, so maybe it's a school, maybe it's a wherever the money coming from the state house
water
is going.
Department or any of these things.
Well, wherever
Roads
state
department.
money is going towards there, right?
Okay.
So, and then they can be called upon to help do local audits as well.
Okay.
But that is their main job, is to make sure what we're actually divvying out with the state budget is actually being spent appropriately.
Yeah. And that's why I think that's one of the big problems that's happening, because so much of the state budget, over 50%, is education, right?
Yep.
And we have these major scandals in some of our biggest school districts right now that are tied to finances. Iowa City, Cedar Rapids are right top of mind for me. And it's because Rob Sand is basically, from what I hear, basically doesn't work. I don't know. I don't know if maybe he does, but he's not even in the office half the time is what but audits enforce the discipline, which make it easier for a school board to act with integrity.
Well,
right?
it's the accountability.
It's the accountability.
That is the accountability to the people. I mean, you're giving your tax. I mean, you don't give them. You're required to pay them. Your tax dollars away. You want to make sure they're being accounted for, and that's the sole job of the auditor. And so if we don't have someone who's actually diligent about that, then a lot of money can be mismanaged. Now, schools are a challenging one because they're not just primarily funded by the state, right? They get local and federal dollars as well. But yes, so they can only really account for the portion that comes from the state.
Okay, so that's what they can audit.
Yes, but at the same time, I mean, you are right. There is a lot of corruption, as we've seen at the federal level. I mean, at the local level, there are some issues at the local level with people embezzling, right? So it's not that...
Well, and just incompetence, too. I mean, we got two things here. Like, corruption is really bad, and incompetence, well, that's not acceptable either. Like,
I mean, we can't just stick our heads in the sand and think like, oh, it's not happening in Iowa. Of course, no. Any level of government, there needs to be accountability and due diligence done to monitor.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, auditor. Abby and Chris, like, any other final thoughts on
final thoughts would be
how people should think about that race?
I'm more impressed with Abby and how she's run a race and her experience that she brings versus the track record of Lieutenant Governor Knoyer and what her voting record was like when she was in the Iowa Senate.
Do you remember any of her, like, what off the top of your head, voting record in the Senate from her? Like, I mean, what were some of the things that were right or wrong? Or
yeah, I mean, early on, we could not get a bill to come to the floor for like, evaluate that. So we would, what's called blue carding. You talk to them one-on-one and kind of get a feel for where they're at. And she wasn't really hardcore going to come out one way or the other on where she stood on like Jim's bill that he had, Senate File 555, which would have banned vaccine mandates in Iowa. For everything. And this was 2021. So this is in the heat of COVID, right after the vaccine came out. And we told them mandates are going to come next, and they didn't listen. And that's what we saw in the fall that year. So she wasn't someone who was like, yes, let's, I'm on board.
So you really would have loved it when, I mean, especially in a moment like that, when kind of the pressure was against it, like the people who came out and fought for you when, or fought for freedom when it wasn't popular, those are like, man, then I could really feel like you had my back.
Yes.
But she didn't oppose it, but she didn't come out for it.
No. Yeah, I can't speak to any of the other bills that, come to mind. I mean, she's probably, I would imagine she passed all the tort reform legislation that put caps on medical malpractice for any medical injuries, basically in non-medical expenses. That passed when she was in the Senate, and I believe the trucker tort reform did as well. So in my mind, due process needs to happen in all of those situations when there's injury and liability.
And tort reform basically just caps their liability. Is that basically what happens?
Yeah,
so like if a truck driver hits somebody, tort reform says even if they did something so egregiously horrible, the worst thing that can happen is they get $250,000 in liability or something like that.
There's a cap on how much they can get, even if their expenses surpass that. And I think, and I think there is an argument there with like businesses need to know like where they stand on liability, but at the same time, what does due process mean then, right? Like in the actual Constitution, in the Iowa Constitution, we have those rights. And so making sure that if maybe, and most of the time, if there's a huge payout that's like really over the top, an actual judge is going to come into play with the jury's decision, and it's not actually going to be that big of a payout. Okay. There's some huge medical malpractice cases in the last couple of years in hospitals in Iowa, and they got huge payouts, but they actually have not paid out that much money.
Pay it out
no, even though they crushed a baby's skull and killed them while they're doing delivery or whatever happened. So,
but this whole idea that the power needs to be taken out of the hands of the people is just wrong.
Right, exactly.
But it does go back to the idea of we the people have kind of lost our credibility, and we've surrendered a lot of our freedoms, and we have not acted with wisdom. We have we don't have we need to have wisdom. We need to act with justice as juries. And so anyway, that's just like one of the challenges is like sort of the natural result of an irresponsible people is that the power gets taken away from the people.
Yes.
And
but what that vote, what those votes indicate is that she's more willing to do what the party wants, maybe,
Yeah.
versus knowing where she actually stood on the issues. And so is she going to be, truly a good auditor that's willing to call out, Republican-led things? I don't know.
Yeah.
This whole auditor situation is interesting because we had an auditor candidate a few years ago who
Why
could have
did he
come
not?
in.
Yeah, what was the story with that? What was it like? How did we not elect? How do we elect Rob Sand? What's wrong with Iowa?
We basically ushered him in because we didn't want him on the campaign trail with the rest of the people because he won in a primary against the party's candidate who was out of Council Bluffs. So I don't remember the exact specifics, but he found corruption within some government agency.
The Republican auditor.
Yes.
Okay.
The Republican auditor candidate.
Yes. But he was a county auditor or county
something
supervisor
like that.
or something.
Yes.
Okay.
And
so he offended some people.
Oh, yes, because
he was being a good auditor.
He was being a good auditor, right.
Oh, so he's like the perfect auditor.
Exactly. He was willing to do what was right because it's true. Like, if there is one thing I love about George Washington, is the fact that he identified the fact that the parties are going to be the death of this country. Like the factions is what he called them. And it totally is. So I obviously registered Republican in order to participate in the primaries because you have to be registered with one of the parties to participate in that party's primary.
That's basically the cards we've been dealt.
Yes.
You want to throw a temper tantrum about it and not participate? Well, you're not helping.
Yes. But at the same time, the parties themselves are one of the biggest issues in how we ended up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than the people also, giving away our power.
Yeah. I mean, so what do you see as just give us an assessment of Iowa and okay, what's there, where are we at? Is there hope for Iowa? Is there what looking ahead, you've been in the trenches fighting for, good things in Iowa and your own family and your own community, but also in Des Moines and stuff. And you don't get paid for that, at least not.
Nope.
So you're fighting for something. What do you see for Iowa?
Honestly, it was just, I have this insatiable desire for justice to be done. And the only way to do that is if we get more active. And so I can't do that by myself, right? And I can't talk about doing that if I don't actually do it. Yeah. So in reality, I'm very optimistic about the trajectory of Iowa because I know some of the legislators that are in our state house, where they are and where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And that excites me. And the fact that we have people stepping into primaries and stepping into run from these generations of people that, they do want to protect liberty. Yeah. I think that's exciting. Yeah. I think that we can actually do that in Iowa, especially if we get the right governor candidate. Yeah. That just adds more fuel to the fire. But we have the opportunities and we have the ability to do that and kind of make Iowa this special place. I do watch some of the other states, and Idaho and New Hampshire have some pretty awesome laws, I'm not going to lie, for liberty. Oh, okay. So, if we can kind of do that in even more, kind of become this Midwest heartland of liberty, I think it would be fantastic. And I am optimistic that, we're on that right track. Yeah, that's so good. I love that. I mean, we're the heartland, right? Mm-hmm. When the rest of the country loses its head, our job is to keep our head. Yes. Yeah. And we're not a huge population, but that's okay. I am okay with the fact that we're 3 million people. And as long as we continue to invest in Iowa and really put good policies in place in Iowa, we will attract the right people that want to be here. Yeah. And just believe in that. Our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. And there's a lot of people who have moved here for homeschooling. So a lot of people love that aspect of the freedom of homeschooling in Iowa. So love it. All right. Well, I'm going to, one of the traditions here is I pray for the candidates, but you're not a candidate, but you are every bit as valuable, and just appreciate everything you've done for fighting for Iowa, and not even getting nothing in it for you, except for the satisfaction of fulfilling the call that God put on your life. Yeah. I think the next generation, that's who we do it for. Yeah. So we want to see our kids be in a place that upholds their rights just like us, because we aren't going to be here forever. Right. Absolutely. All right. Father, I just lift Lindsay up to you, her whole family, Informed Choice Iowa, all of her workplace and her customers and all of the interests she has. And I ask that your favor would be on her, that
your face would shine on her life, that you would produce peace in her home, that you would give her power to make an impact for the cause of your kingdom in our government, but also in her own kids' lives, in her husband's life, in everybody who's connected to her, that she would be a light for truth, for justice, for righteousness, that people would love because of they interact with her. People would be joyful because they interact with her. People would become more kind, more generous. All those good things, I pray that wherever Lindsay goes, she would be a conqueror in the sense that your attitude about how things ought to be is established in those places because of what she does. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
Yes.
Good conversation.